The fight's exactly what I was expecting. But you got to get out and let punches go. To make money, you would have to let punches go.
Emanuel Steward built the greatest boxing dynasty in sports history at his legendary Kronk Gym in Detroit. The master trainer created over 40 world champions and transformed unknown street kids into millionaire superstars. But success came with painful betrayals that broke his heart. This isn't about ring wars or championship disputes. We're exposing the fighters who turned their backs on the man who gave them everything. Students who abandoned their teacher for money and fame. Champions who forgot where they came from once they reached the top. The Steward treated his boxers like family members. He fed them, housed them, and believed in them when nobody else would. The Kronk Gym became a sanctuary for lost souls seeking direction and purpose. But some fighters repaid his kindness with devastating disloyalty. These betrayals cut deeper than any knockout punch Steward ever witnessed. Watching his surrogate sons choose greed over gratitude destroyed him emotionally. The boxing business showed its ugliest side when promoters and managers poisoned relationships he had spent years building. We're counting down 6 fighters who wounded Emanuel Steward's soul. These men proved that loyalty means nothing when big money enters the picture. The #1 revelation will shock you about boxing's most devastating family breakdown. 6. Mike McCallum. Starting our list at number 6 is Mike McCallum, the Jamaican warrior whose contract battle with Steward revealed the brutal business side of professional boxing. McCallum spent his early years developing into a world-class fighter under Steward's guidance at Kronk Gym, learning the aggressive Detroit style that would make him famous. The relationship soured when McCallum began questioning Steward's financial arrangements and training percentages. As McCallum's earning potential increased, outside advisors convinced him that Steward was taking too large a cut of his purses without providing proportional value in return. Contract negotiations turned nasty when McCallum's legal team demanded reduced payments to Steward and greater control over fight selections. Steward felt blindsided by these demands from someone he had nurtured from obscurity into championship contention. The gym atmosphere became tense as other fighters watched the dispute unfold. McCallum's departure from Kronk shocked the boxing community because few fighters had ever walked away from Steward's proven system voluntarily. The split became public when McCallum started achieving success with different trainers, which Steward interpreted as a personal insult to his methods and reputation. Steward privately expressed disappointment that McCallum had chosen financial considerations over their established partnership. The trainer felt that McCallum's ingratitude set a dangerous precedent for other Kronk fighters who might consider similar departures for purely monetary reasons. The broken relationship represented Steward's first major lesson about boxing's capacity for destroying genuine friendships through money disputes and legal complications that poisoned years of mutual respect. 5. James Toney. At number 5 is James Toney, the supremely gifted middleweight whose lazy attitude and party lifestyle made Steward question everything he believed about developing championship material. Toney possessed natural boxing instincts that amazed everyone at Kronk Gym, but his work ethic was absolutely terrible from day one. Steward invested countless hours trying to harness Toney's raw talent through disciplined training routines and structured preparation schedules. However, Toney consistently showed up late for sessions, skipped conditioning work, and treated the gym like a social club rather than a professional workplace. The situation became embarrassing when Toney would arrive at Kronk still intoxicated from previous night's partying activities. Other fighters began questioning Steward's standards and wondering why special treatment was given to someone who clearly disrespected the gym's established rules and traditions. Steward's frustration peaked during sparring sessions when Toney would coast through rounds without serious effort. The trainer knew Toney could dominate opponents with proper preparation, but watched helplessly as natural gifts were wasted through laziness and poor lifestyle choices outside the gym. Training camp situations became disasters as Toney ignored dietary guidelines, missed scheduled workouts, and argued with Steward about tactical adjustments. The fighter's arrogance convinced him that talent alone would overcome any preparation deficiencies, which directly contradicted Kronk's philosophy about hard work creating champions. Steward eventually realized that Tony's attitude was poisoning the gym environment for dedicated fighters who followed instructions and respected the training process. The trainer felt personally insulted by Tony's behavior and began limiting their interactions to preserve Kronk's reputation for producing disciplined warriors. Number 4, Pernell Whitaker, the defensive wizard whose elusive style created philosophical warfare with Steward's aggressive Kronk methodology. Whitaker arrived at the gym with a completely developed fighting approach that conflicted with everything Steward taught about offensive pressure and forward movement. The tension began immediately during their first training sessions when Steward attempted to modify Whitaker's defensive tactics. The trainer believed that Kronk's attacking philosophy could enhance Whitaker's natural abilities, but the fighter resisted every suggested adjustment to his established techniques. Sparring sessions became battlegrounds, as Steward pushed Whitaker to be more aggressive, while the fighter insisted on maintaining his slick defensive approach. Other gym members watched these philosophical clashes unfold, creating divided loyalties between Steward's proven methods and Whitaker's obvious success with his original style. Media criticism intensified when boxing writers questioned Steward's attempts to change a fighter who was already achieving championship success. The negative publicity damaged Steward's reputation as a trainer who could adapt to different fighting personalities rather than forcing everyone into the same aggressive mold. Whitaker's continued victories using his defensive approach became a public rejection of Kronk's offensive principles. Steward felt professionally embarrassed when critics suggested that his training methods were actually hurting rather than helping an elite fighter's natural development. The relationship deteriorated into mutual resentment as both men refused to compromise their boxing philosophies. Steward took Whitaker's resistance personally, viewing it as disrespect for the Kronk legacy and proven track record of creating champions through aggressive tactics and relentless pressure fighting. 3. Julio Cazar Chavez. At number 3 is Julio Cazar Chavez, the Mexican superstar whose dismissive attitude toward American boxing culture infuriated Steward and represented everything wrong with regional prejudice in the sport. Chavez publicly declared that Mexican trainers were superior to their American counterparts, specifically targeting Detroit's boxing establishment. Steward took these comments as a direct assault on his life's work and the accomplishments of Kronk Gym. The trainer had spent decades proving that Detroit could produce world-class champions, and Chavez's statements undermined the respect Steward had earned through 40 championship victories. The Mexican legend continued making inflammatory remarks about American boxing knowledge during television interviews and press conferences. Chavez suggested that Detroit trainers relied on outdated methods while Mexican coaches understood modern fighting techniques better than anyone in the United States. These cultural attacks became personal when Chavez started naming Steward specifically in his criticisms of American boxing. The comments spread throughout the boxing community and forced Steward to defend his methods and reputation against someone who had never worked with him directly. Promotional warfare escalated when Chavez's team began recruiting American fighters by promising superior training in Mexico. Steward watched potential students choose Mexican camps over Kronk based purely on Chavez's influence and public statements about trainer superiority. The situation represented broader tensions between regional boxing cultures, but Steward felt singled out for disrespect. The trainer believed Chavez was using anti-American sentiment to advance his own career while damaging the reputation of Detroit boxing institutions that had contributed significantly to the sport's development and international success. 2. Don King. Number 2 is Don King, the notorious promoter who systematically destroyed Steward's relationships with his best fighters through manipulation and financial scheming. King represented everything evil about boxing business practices and targeted Kronk Gym champions for recruitment through underhanded tactics. King's approach involved convincing fighters that Steward was holding them back financially and professionally. The promoter would whisper promises of bigger purses and better opportunities while secretly working to undermine the trust between trainer and student that had taken years to build. The promoter's manipulation tactics included spreading rumors about Steward's business dealings and suggesting that other trainers could provide better career guidance. King exploited any minor disagreements between Steward and his fighters. Financial schemes became King's primary weapon against Steward's influence over championship fighters. The promoter would offer lucrative contracts that required fighters to abandon their current training arrangements in favor of King's hand-picked cornermen and advisors. Steward watched helplessly as King systematically stole his most talented students through promises that rarely materialized into actual benefits. The promoter's political connections and industry influence made it nearly impossible for Steward to compete against his promotional machine and financial resources. 1. Tommy Hearns. And here we reach number 1, Tommy Hearns, the devastating betrayal that shattered Emanuel Steward's heart completely. Hearns wasn't just Steward's greatest champion. He was his surrogate son, his pride and joy, the fighter who put Kronk Gym on the boxing map forever. Steward discovered Hearns as a skinny teenager in Detroit and molded him into the most feared puncher in welterweight history. Their relationship transcended boxing as Steward became Hearns' father figure, mentor, and closest confidant throughout his rise to superstardom. The breakdown began when Hearns' entourage grew larger and more influential after his biggest victories. Family members and business advisors started questioning Steward's financial arrangements and suggesting that the trainer was profiting too much from Hearns' success. Business disputes escalated into personal attacks on Steward's character and motivations. Hearns began listening to outside voices claiming that Steward had been exploiting him financially while taking credit for achievements that belonged solely to the fighter's natural talent. The final split devastated Steward more than any professional disappointment in his entire career. Watching his boxing son choose money and outside influence over their family bond broke the trainer's spirit permanently. Hearns' public rejection of Steward represented the ultimate failure of everything the trainer believed about loyalty, gratitude, and family values. The betrayal taught Steward that even the closest relationships mean nothing when greed enters the picture.
Tyson, everyone says he's awkward, he's just that, but I know him personally. He's lived with in my home too.
From contract disputes to family betrayals, these stories reveal boxing's cruelest side. Which relationship breakdown hurts most? Share your thoughts and hit subscribe for more gym secrets.